Hey everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a build guide for a Pure 12 Fiend Warlock in Baldur's Gate 3. This is a fire themed subclass getting Burning Hands, Scorching Ray, Fireball, Wall of Fire, and later Cone of Cold. It's a powerful caster and melee attacking hybrid. It got a pretty big buff in patch 8. It's the default class for Will, but I'm going to be taking you through a build you can use for anybody. And it's actually a good face to the party because they get the Dark One's own luck when they hit level 6, adding a 1d10 to an ability check. And at later levels, they get the Fiendish Resistance, which lets you pick a damage type, become resistant to it, and it's actually a very powerful ability. So for our cantrips, we'll be taking at level 1, Eldritch Blast, the best ranged cantrip, and Booming Blade, the best melee cantrip. These two are very powerful together. We want to have them. We're also going to be grabbing for our level 1 spells. Armor of Agathis is actually a really nice spell, but I like to have Command on here because this is actually a pretty useful spell, and we can later do it as a bonus action if we wanted to. Hex is another good one because you can use this into like Eldritch Blast as well because it's a bonus action, and it gives you more damage. So it just depends if you want to get a bit more temporary health and cold damage against attackers, or if you want to set up combat starting with a hex and then attacking another target. You get a freak. It's a concentration, so you can cast it again later on without breaking your concentration. But I like to have Command in Armor of Agathis. Our spell selection, or our ability score selection, 17 if you want to use the Hag's Hair. Otherwise, we're going to be going with a stat spread of 16 Dex, 14 Constitution, 16 Charisma. You can actually go higher into your Constitution here. Initiative is just so good in Baldur's Gate 3 that sometimes you do want to put a bit higher into your Dex. So between the two of those scores, but this is probably the preferred way because we're going to be using Charisma for our weapon attack rolls and spellcasting. Level 2 introduces our Eldritch Invocations, which are buffs that are actually extremely good. We can also grab for thematic purposes like the Burning Hands or Hellish Rebuke cantrips or spells because this just fits on theme, but it's also nice to hit a cone in an area of effect if you see multiple targets grouped up. Hellish Rebuke is nice though, and I probably would recommend grabbing Hex though. Now for our Eldritch Invocations, Devil's Sight is extremely good. You can actually have arrows of darkness and hide in them, and then any enemy is not going to be able to do an attack roll towards you. It's pretty powerful. Don't do it if you don't want the game to be like pretty broken because darkness is super overpowered. So I'm going to recommend grabbing Agonizing Blast, which will add our Charisma modifier, so a +3 onto our Eldritch Blast beams. Later on, we're going to get more of these at level 5 and 10, so you can then get extra damage on top of those. And adding Repelling Blast, which will push the enemy back 4.5 meters after attacking with this, pretty solid. You basically want to use this to control a battlefield by maybe knocking enemies off of a ledge or putting them into a crowd control or Hunger of Vidar at later levels. But level 3 is fun because we get our pact boon and access to Scorching Ray. This would be the spell I'd recommend grabbing. Hold Person is another good choice though. This is just a really good damage option from range. Pact boon. I would highly recommend grabbing Pact of the Blade because we can then at level 5 get an extra attack, and this will make it so we use Charisma for our weapon attack rolls. Pact of the Chain is just okay. You can actually get a Quasite in the game without having to go through all of that pain, and Pact of the Tome gives us okay cantrips. Way better to grab Pact of the Blade here and then bind our weapon. You never know when you may want to do an extra weapon attack. I would almost always recommend grabbing Pact of the Blade. It's just that good. Level 4 gives us another cantrip. We got the two best in the game. You can grab Friends here for the face of the party. This will make dialogue a whole lot easier. Bone Chill is good too because it's a range attack that will make it so that the enemy does not receive healing. There's some moments where that's really good. Mage Hand is my recommendation though because you can use this to throw healing potions or any type of like water bottle to set up your Cone of Cold later on. Pretty crazy at that point. We also then get to take another level 2 spell. I'd recommend Hold Person, although I do want to mention Shadowblade is the most powerful spell in this game, so you probably wouldn't mind grabbing that. But you can also go ahead with Misty Step if you wanted to. It scales terribly because you're going to use higher level spell slots as you increase. With Hold Person, you get to hold another person, which is actually insane value for upcasting. Whereas the Misty Step does not get that. Shadowblade does get upcasting benefits, and it's absurd. Just going to put that out there if you want it. Now for our first feat at level 4. Alert for the +5 to initiative is excellent, or an ability score improvement to take up a charisma by 2. I'd recommend Alert. It's just really good in this game. Level 5, extra attack time. Pretty powerful here now. So we can do a Booming Blade and a normal attack, or we can do, you know, a couple Eldritch Blast beams. The options are limitless. We also get level 3 spells at this point. I like Hunger of Hadar. This spell does not cast up very well because you can't, if you use that at a level 4 spell slot, it's the same as if you were to cast at level 3. The Warlock doesn't get to choose between spell slots because they just increase in power. So I would actually recommend grabbing Fireball over that. Hunger of Hadar is still pretty good though. It's a core defining feature of the Warlock. So I'd recommend that, and we also can get Devil's Sight at this level. I would still recommend grabbing it, because it doesn't help out with our own, like you can't go and hide in Hunger of Hadar as cool as that would be, but the combination would be to set this up, and then if you want want to hide out somewhere else, you can have like a shadow magic sorcerer cast their version of darkness in an area, or you can just have your ranger shoot an arrow of darkness at a target. You can run up to them and then you get advantage on your attack rolls because you can see in the dark and no one else can. So there's a lot of synergies here that make this a very strong class. But we'll be rolling with that. Hunger for Terror is pretty solid. Now once we get to level 6 here, we get our Dark One's Own Luck, adding a 1d10 bonus to an ability check. The lovely thing, this is per short rest, so yeah, you're going to get a lot of bonuses. Short rest often as a warlock. Now for our next level spell, I would recommend, I love Fireball, don't get me wrong, great spell. Counterspell is just a very good spell to have. Sometimes you just need to stop a spellcaster from casting something that's just going to maybe end your honor mode run. Don't use it all the time because we're limited to our spell slots, but I do want to say it's one of the better options in this game. Level 7 gives us the choice of Wall of Fire, but I think at this point we do need a damage option like Fireball. Scorching Ray is great, but it's not going to cut it at this point. This will also get upcasted as well because it's now going to be a level 4 version, which will do, instead of the 8d6, it'll do a 9d6. We also can take another choice of Eldritch Invocations here. There's not really like amazing choices. You could get Confusion if you wanted to, but it still will eat up a spell slot. My choice, Beguiling Influence, which will give you proficiency in Deception and Persuasion. If you're the face of the party, that's the best choice. If you're not the face of the party, Mask of Many Faces, or the Beast Speech, giving you speak with animals without expending a spell slot, is probably the best choice. But since we can be the face of the party, that is my option there. So utility, I wouldn't recommend Confusion too much. Don't want to spend our spell slots on it. Level 8 though, this is when we get another choice in spell, and at this point we can grab Wall of Fire there. If you want a little extra juice, it's a pretty decent concentration to hold because you can crowd control with it, put it in a doorway. Enemies will still run through it, but it's going to make them take damage. Now, once we get to our next level, Wardcaster to hold our concentrations can be good if you like having Hunger of Hadar up all the time. I also like Savage Attacker to reroll our damage die. That just makes us really strong. And also an ability score improvement on our Charisma gives us probably the most bang for our buck just because we do weapon attack rolls, spellcasting, and Charisma skills with it, so it's really useful. Level 9 gives us Cone of Cold. This is great, an 8d8 of cold damage. That mage hand I mentioned earlier, drop a water bottle. It's a free action. Your mage hand can throw it for you, and then you got double damage in your Cone of Cold. Also, you can grab Minions of Chaos. This is okay that we only get a level 5 spell slot because patch 8 actually nerfed the level 6 version, which we don't have access to. So now the water elemental is on top. So using it, its main punch attack will apply Chilled. Chilled means that the target takes double cold damage. Cone of Cold becomes a potential 128 damage. It's really good. Level 10 is when we get our Fiendish Resistance, so you get to pick a damage type. Now, if you're going up against a boss that does lightning damage, like Answer, you can throw on lightning damage resistance. If you're going against something like a Mind Flare that does psychic damage, you can put resistance to psychic damage. If you're going against a bunch of archers, you can put on resistance to piercing damage. Pretty good, and you can pick a new one per short rest. Again, short rest often, and you use this wisely. Just know what you're going up against. The default choices would probably be slashing and piercing, but if you're going against a bunch of casters, fire is very valuable, and even lightning. Now, we also can take another cantrip here, so Minor Illusion is another good one if you don't have the previous selections. And at this level, Flame Strike is not good. Nor is Hold Monster, really. Actually, Hold Monster is pretty good. Flame Strike is just not a good choice for our spell slot. It does an okay amount of damage, but we're probably better off doing anything else because we just have so many options. Now, level 11 does give us our Mystic Arcanum here. Circle of Death's okay because it has a huge area of effect radius, 86 and necrotic. You can only use it occasionally. Sometimes you're just going to blast away at your teammates. Eye Bite is an interesting one because you can hold a concentration on this and put someone new to sleep every turn. Pretty good stuff. We also have Flesh to Stone, which, no. 3 turns, they have to fail their save before turning to stone. Not worth it. Create Undead. This can give you a mummy for additional tanking, which is pretty solid. And you just need a corpse. I'd actually recommend grabbing this. I'm going to grab Circle of Death because sometimes you can get a lucky shot where you're going to hit a ton of targets with it. It's not an amazing spell, but it's not a bad option. Now, for level 11, you could grab Flame Strike if you're desperate, but I'm going to now throw on Shadow Blade because the scaling is here. We can now get the 4d8 version of it, making it the strongest weapon in the game. It's strong. You don't have to use it. Just going to put that out there. This is a pure 12 build, but you can be really overpowered using that. Now, we could grab Misty Step here. But I guess at this point, it's not bad to take Flame Strike. Sometimes you can hit targets with that, but not something you're going to want to use often. Life Drinker, though. This will make it so that our melee attacks will deal additional necrotic damage equal to our Charisma modifier. So we now have a +4 to our Charisma checks. Pretty solid, but Our level 12 feat could push that even further to take it up to a +5. Alternatively, the Hexblade Warlock is medium armor proficiency. You could add it here, but I did mention Warcaster previously, and even the Savage Attacker, which is my personal preference if you want to do melee attacks. Since we got a 4d8 dagger, that's a lot of dies that are getting re-rolled compared to charisma increase giving you slightly better spellcasting, which is still good, don't get me wrong. You can go with the charisma increase, but if you want to do at least one melee attack in combat per encounter, Savage Attacker probably is a lot higher value. And the outfit mod is from the Queen's Garments by Skirbie. So for our gear, we can actually go with lightning charges in the early game. It's oddly enough going to be our best option. I would recommend once you get to Act 2 to go off the Strange Ox and grab yourself a Hat of Fire Cutie, because this is the most broken item in the game, giving yourself with a Scorching Ray a +10 to your spell save DC. Then you can go ahead with something called Person and make sure you do land it. It is actually pretty absurd, and it also will benefit your Eldritch Blast. So yeah, Hat of Fire Cutie, it is definitely worth grabbing. If you don't want to use that, there is the you could go with the Charisma Birthright hat here, and in the early game the Haste Helmet will give you additional movement speed, so that is another option there. Now if you're playing as a Dark Urge, Deathstalker Mantle is your best choice, giving you the ability to turn invisible, which is great with attack rolls. We have so many of those, but also Cloak Protection for the armor class works great too. I have the Robe of the Weave on. This gives us +1 bonus to spell save DC. Whenever we succeed a saving throw, we get a 1 to 6 health and +2 to armor class. This is going to be good if you use something like a mage armor in addition to that. We do have light armor proficiency, but there's not many great light armors. You could use the ballast armor, but that's late game. So we're going to go with the clothing based option here. Really whatever you got. If you're in the early game, however, there is the Protecting Sparks wall here. Using the spell Sparkler and having a concentration up, you get a +1 to your armor class. Just by having the lightning charges, so that is actually one of the best options in the early game, believe it or not. And then once you get to, you could even use something like the medium armor feat and grab the adamantine scale mail if you're at the end of Act 1, just for better survivability. Although I would just recommend using mage armor here because it does give you a bit of survivability. Now I do have the Gloves of Belligerent Skies on here. When you deal lightning damage from our lightning charge there, we can apply reverberation. But I also have the Boots of Stormy Clamor. So we can actually use something like the Daredevil Gloves because we have a lot of ranged spell attacks, so we can use these at close range, although at that point we're probably better using our melee attacks because we got something like the Resonance Stone there. But if you're in the late game, the best choice is by far the Crater Flesh Gloves, because when you get crits you get additional 1d6 of force damage, and that becomes absurd. I also got the Boots of Stormy Clamor, because if you got a lifted ability drain, you can apply reverberation on the enemy. There's a few other ways that we can easily apply a status, but if you don't have that, you could also go with Disintegrating Nightwalker there for a bit of dashing and teleporting. Helldusk Boots give you the fiery version, which fits thematically with that, and even the Evasive Shoes, the bonus to the armor class. Now I got the Amulet of Greater Health on here, but honestly the best available amulet that you got, even in Act 1, is nice to be a bit of a support healer with the Amulet of Restoration, give you 2 bonus action heals, and also things like the Perioptic Wound Closure lets you have a lot of sustain. I would recommend going with either of those there. Now I would recommend having, since we got great crit benefits, you could go with something like the Killer Sweetheart here. I would recommend also using the Shadow Cloaked Ring here, because we can set up darkness that we can see in and get an additional 1d4 of damage. This is also going to be based off Shadow Blade damage, so it's 1d4 of psychic, so it's like a 1d4 times 2. It's kind of crazy. I also do want to quickly mention gloves. There's also the Brain Drain gloves. Psychic damage is from our Shadow Blade there, and this will apply mental fatigue, which gives them less of a chance of succeeding on a mental save. So with the Hat of Fire Cutie, we land anything in the game easily. I also have the Ring of Protection on because we don't have a very high armor class, but you could also alternatively add something like the Coruscation Ring on here, just illuminate yourself and Scorching Ray blast away. Now I have the Staff of Spell Power on here because we're going to do a little trick here, and the Hellrider Longbow for the +3 to our initiative. With this here, you get a free cast of it, and then you can go ahead and give yourself a Shadow Blade here. So this will make sure that we're getting the level 4 Shadow Blade, and then go ahead and apply that. We now have Shadow Blade and our shield out, doing a 48 +8 psychic damage plus a 1d4 from our ring there. This becomes crazy. You see 44 damage. That's doubled if you have the Resonance Stone. So you can one-shot anybody. And we have Booming Blade adding an additional 2d8 of thunder damage. And we also can then resist a damage type, which is just crazy. Always make sure you use that just because it is a very good thing to have up. We only have 3 spell slots. We're going to make them count because we can start off with a Scorching Ray and then go into like Hold Person or Hold Monster. We also have to bind our pack weapon to get the extra attack with it, so don't forget to do that. And another weapon ring I want to mention is the Ring of Arcane Synergy here. So you can actually use this, and when you use Booming Blade, you get your Charisma modifier added to your melee attack rolls, which is pretty solid, honestly. So you could use that and just have this flat out damage boost. So I guess I'll take off the coruscation and go all in on that. So we get the Charisma modifier added and a 1d4 of extra damage. So yeah, we're hitting hard. I also want to quickly mention the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, which you can use after doing a weapon attack to cast an illusion or enchantment spell, which means you can cast Hold Person or Command as bonus actions. And this is pretty crazy because you can do like a Booming Blade weapon attack, and that's a potentially 100 plus damage, and then do a crowd control spell afterwards. Now in combat, one funny thing, you see that little shadow there? That's enough to give us advantage with Shadow Blade, and it's enough to set up our Shadow Cloak ring. That's pretty crazy. So we can even go a step further and use Booming Blade here, which you can see we got upwards of 56 damage, and we're likely going to one-shot if we don't miss an attack. We got our reverberation off at least. That's awful, but we'll follow up with another attack here, and I'm going to roll a crit. What? Not sure what happened there, but the roll looks like it should have hit, but we get a crit. I'm not sure what happened there, whatever. I'm now down in action with no damage, so I have to go Kaioken and drop my fireball on this many enemies here. Just otherwise, that would have been a really bad turn. And I got 2 stacks of Arcane Acuity, which is okay. And Dark One's Blessing giving us a bit of temporary hit points. So yeah, we have now plus 16 temp hit points, which are really good. I should use a bonus action. I'm going to use Mind Blast here. Illithid abilities are going to be extremely powerful if you can set those up, just because the damage of something like a Mind Blast is so good. Stunning and taking a few targets into combat. So yeah, sometimes if you have a bad turn where you miss multiple attacks and you got other abilities you can use those. Now, we want to make sure our spells do land as well. So Scorching Ray is our ticket for that. It's always going to be level 5, so as long as we hit pretty much every one of these but one, we're going to make sure that we do get our ability to cast our spells, because it's going to boost up our spell save DC. Unfortunately, I can't hit that target here, so I'll just fire a couple more at, yeah, this guy here. So yeah, we actually landed a lot of those. We got reverberation on multiple enemies there, and that now sets our spell save DC up to a plus 20 or 27 total, with plus 4 charisma, plus 4 proficiency, plus 1 from our equipment, and plus 10 from Arcane Acuity. Scorching Ray is so good. This also then means that we can go ahead with something like Hold Person. We don't have a concentration set, so we can go ahead 99%, 95%, and 95%, and a 95%. Perfect. That's great. That's ideal combat right there. So booyah, they are all taken out of combat. They can try to resist that, but they're held person. So now we can just take over. Oh, there's one more guy just floating along there. That's fine. But what we're going to do after we have them all crowd control like that is eat this opportunity attack so that I can go one-shot the rest of them, because we get critical hits. Ooh, we almost broke concentration. If you go in here, this is going to basically one-shot them. Yeah, boom. You see that extra force damage? The gloves that say a 1d6 extra damage are actually a 2d6, because a crit will double the damage die. So yeah, you basically one shot once you got Hold Person off on people. And then to end off, we don't have any spells left, but we still have our Eldritch Blast, which is no pushover. Like, you can push someone away with that and get a critical miss. But Hold Person still holds true, so yeah, he can come back at us all he wants. We'll just Booming Blade into the next Tuesday. See you later. 86 on the damage, 14 from Booming Blade, and 4 from Life Drinker. That is absurd. We can get within 3 meters of a target, and then that's going to give us a Eldritch Blast critical hits. I was not close enough, but that was fine. We were enough to push him back, and he's still in the Hold Person there. So yeah, the whole nice thing about Hold Person is they're likely not going to resist the save that they have to make, so we can just continually keep peppering away at them and attack so with advantage. It's really good. That was enough to take him out, and the final Eldritch Blast here to finish him off. Booyah, there it is. So that's a pure 12 Fiend version of the Warlock in Baldur's Gate 3. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you found that useful, and we'll catch you all in the next video.